Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday evening, November the 7th, 2021. I hope everyone is safe and doing as well as possible. We made it through another week. I'd like to welcome everyone to the show tonight. This will be my weekly update that I'll be putting on YouTube, where we'll look at methane and sea ice and some climate conditions. And we'll go over La Palma as well. And so we're going to start out with the NOAA methane data. This is for yesterday the 6th for the 477/469 millibar reading. It says Met-Op-B, which is the Met-Op-1 that got renamed. This is for the morning. The mean or average was 1,926 parts per billion. The high reading was 2430. And in the afternoon, the mean was 1927, and the high reading was 2481. Now remember, a few weeks ago, NOAA stopped reporting the Met-Op-2 data, and they're retiring that satellite. So we only have the Met-Op-1 data. So I revamped my spreadsheet and I have 2 pages now for just the Met-Op-1 data. So here we are with the data that I just showed you, and that averages out to be 1926.5 parts per billion. That's a decrease over last week's report of 5.5 parts per billion. So we can see a definite line down here this week. So it looks to me like we're headed down, and this is the season for methane to start retreating. And according to this, we hit our high on October the 2nd of 1936 parts per billion. And so we're 19.5 parts per billion higher than we were a year ago, and we're 57 parts per billion higher than where we started back here on March the 1st of 2019. Here's what happened this week. So here was the reading for Saturday the 30th. This was in my show last week. We ended up at 1932 with no change for that week. And then on Sunday it went down 1 part per billion. On Monday it went down 1.5. On Tuesday there was no change. Wednesday it went up 1.5. Thursday it went up 1 point. Friday it went up 0.5. And then Saturday was a very steep decrease over the day before of 3 parts per billion, giving an overall decrease for the week of 5.5. So that's where we're at. And typically methane goes down during the winter time, and then the big rise starts around May or June, after the northern hemisphere has had a chance to start heating up. But in the last few years we've seen it starting to rise as early as January. And it was rising overall most of the year, and the problem is it doesn't go back down to where we were a year ago. So it's a perpetual increase, and it's kind of baked in the cake with our civilization and with with everything on the planet. Just like carbon dioxide is baked in the cake, and it takes 100 years for the carbon dioxide to go away, and it takes a decade or two for what we're releasing now for it to really show up in the atmosphere to see the effects of it. So, and methane breaks down into carbon dioxide, and so it's a double blast. So we're in huge trouble. I don't think there's any fixing it. I tend to agree with Dr. Guy McPherson that the things that they're trying to put into place now, it's too little too late. And so I believe we're in the end times, and we need to get our spiritual houses in order and think about loving one another and being kind to one another and being kind to the animals and the plants and the life that's here that God created, and be ready to leave when it comes our time. And so now we'll look at the CAMS data. This is from Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services website, and they're out of the EU. I have Saturday the 6th loaded up, the Arctic view and surface level ready to go. Here's our color ledger at the bottom. So the data is for Saturday, and the forecast period is Sunday through Wednesday. So even with the overall methane going down, we're still seeing very high readings in a lot of places. Specifically here in the Arctic, it's still billowing around Komsomolets. We're seeing higher releases here coming out across the Laptev Sea and the East Siberian Sea. These waves, they're coming off of the land, and it moves. It's coming up through the ice. And you can see these different shades of green and yellow swirling around over the Arctic. So all of this is coming up through the sea ice. So ice does not keep methane from being released. We've been seeing some really high readings from Norway over to Russia this last week, in waves just moving out across northern Russia. And see, these background colors are still quite high, with it being orange and yellow here. We've got this high reading still on the north coast of Alaska near Koktovik, and here in southern Alaska we have high readings. We have high readings here across Canada. See these waves moving out, and here from North Dakota streaming up. And then the waves will move on to the northern hemisphere, the North Pole view, sorry. There's India still filling up and spilling over. Very high readings in the Bengal Bay, and also moving out in the Arabian Sea. China, see where it spilled over the coastlines. Now we do see overall some lower readings in China. It's not just filled up consistently with the black. I call it black. It's that dark reddish brown. So that's going down, but we're seeing the waves still bursting out. So it's still quite high. Let's see, all the way up along this Pacific coastline in Norway. See the wave move out here. Here's the Persian Gulf. Here's Europe and Italy, and this is Spain and Portugal down here. The UK has some high readings. Then here in the US, it looks awful. From Texas over, it's just like one big blob some days. That's from the rain that we've had. Whenever you have rain, it tends to cause more methane. Rain or swampy conditions. And here, California, quite high. Now we'll hop down to the Antarctic. Now right off the bat, you can see more of these the dark blue color streaming in. That's showing the lower reading of methane. Here I'll show the ledger. So the light blue was 1820 parts per billion. The dark blue is 1800 parts per billion. And we're still seeing some higher readings pop up here by the Brunt Ice Sheet and here in the Larson B ice sheet here on the Western Peninsula. These have been consistent for a while. Now we'll look at the global view. Now here from the equator south, we're seeing a lot more of the dark blue come in. We're seeing the purplish color here in the Pacific, in the West Pacific, and that's even a lower reading. That's down to 1780 parts per billion. Now we'll look at 500 HPA. It's about halfway up in the atmosphere. And here we have the darkest readings here over the Arctic Ocean. And this is Severni Zemlya, so it's spreading out. See, from, well, Komsomolets would be right down here. Spreading out. And then this has streamed out from China and it's over Japan. Here's some blues popping in. It's lower readings here in the Atlantic and in the Pacific. Now we'll look at total column. So the highest readings are here over China. Then the reds are streaming out over the Pacific. India has reds. We have reds over the Persian Gulf. Now, we'll go on with the rest of my pictures for today. Here's sulfur dioxide. We can see pluming up still at La Palma. There's a high reading off the west coast of the U.S. Here it is at 500 HPA. Now this is, see how it's caught up and moving up and around in that circle from La Palma. And then high readings where it's streamed out from Africa up north. And this, I'm thinking that we've had some high readings up by the Aleutian Islands this week, and it's kind of dissipating. I'm not sure if this is a separate new release or if it's just left over from what had come across. Here's the ozone hole today in the Antarctic. We can see there's no black, so the thinnest part has closed up. We saw the black, it was a black area over the South Pole for a while now, a couple of months now, and the size of the hole, it looks like it's diminishing, although it's kind of a weird oblong shape. This everything within this black line is still in the danger zone, and starting this purplish blue or purplish color is between 200 and 220 Dobson units. Then it goes down from there. So all of this is still in the danger zone over the Antarctic, and the sun is up and it's melting fast. It's melting very fast. I believe we're going to see unprecedented melt in the Antarctic this year. Here's the Arctic ozone, and see how thin it is over Russia, and here over Greenland. We've got some thicker ozone building here off the coast of Russia and then across over to Alaska. Here's the global view. So see how thin it is coming all the way up the Atlantic. Most of the U.S. is in a really thin area. And then everything around the equator is thin. And then thin going all the way up through Russia. Anywhere you see green, that's lower than normal, or a greenish tinge even, like this kind of yellowish green, that's below the 300 Dobson units, which is considered healthy. The solid yellow is 300. This is La Palma today. That's all of those. Now let's go over La Palma next. And this is from Zoom Earth. Here's what it was this morning. Here's, you can still see the ash and smoke coming up. And I'm clicking through in hour increments. And then the sun's going down there. And then when we zoom in, I've got the heat layer turned on. And here's where the lava is still flowing down and into the ocean. So it hasn't stopped. It's been erupting for, I think, 6 weeks now. Maybe longer. Maybe 7 weeks. I don't know. Let's refresh and make sure we've got these updates. Okay, so here's the update for today. Activity on slowly decreasing trend while magnitude 4.5 quake shakes island. From today. The activity at the volcano continues at levels similar to yesterday, reduced compared to the weeks before. Visually intermittent, pulsating, weak lava fountains could be observed in the early morning hours from the main vent at the cone, along with the effusion of several smaller lava flows on the western slopes of the cone. The explosions at the summit vent continued to produce ash plumes reaching up to 8,000 feet or 2.4 kilometers altitude, drifting southwest over the ocean. So that's what we saw on Zoom Earth. Volcanic tremor has been following a decreasing trend, which suggests that the magma rate is decreasing as well. No significant change occurred at the lava fronts of the lava flow field, which is now 9,834 hectares large and has destroyed or damaged at least 2,714 buildings. Ground deformation returned to values similar to 48 hours ago, which likely mean that yesterday's peak of inflation at the LPO3 station was likely caused by an instrumental error. Overall, it also follows a trend of decrease or deflation. Seismic activity has also been reduced compared to the previous weeks, with only 55 quakes during 24 hours, with magnitudes above 2.2. The largest was a deep 38-kilometer, magnitude 4.5 tremor at 5:07 p.m. this afternoon, which was widely felt on the island. So that was the update from today. So now we'll move on. Now we'll move into sea ice. We'll start with this slideshow. These are images I download from Climate Reanalyzer every day. And this is the sea ice and snow cover for today. And we can see it's building up here along the coastline in the North Kara Sea, and it's coming out around Franz Josef Land. It's still empty around Svalbard and Novaya Zemlya, and a lot of the Kara Sea is still open, the Barents Sea is open, the North Atlantic is open, and this edge has come down along Greenland. Here, I'll blow this up so we can see it better. The Hudson Bay is still open. We have a little bit of wisp coming back in the Baffin Bay. We have ice now reaching from Greenland all the way across to the Russian coastline. Some of this is quite thin, and there are a lot of holes in the ice, a lot of open water still, and a lot of leads that have not refrozen. And we're getting little wispies back here in the Bering Strait, and the Chukchi Sea is coming back out. It's come out very thin up to the coastline of Alaska and up to Canada. This area in here, the Amundsen Gulf, is still open, and in these tributaries in the Canadian archipelago, it's coming back. That's where we are right now. So we'll go through the pictures from this week. So here we were last week. Now, not much difference, it doesn't look like to me, but we'll see. We'll see as we click through. So here was last Sunday, and here was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now we've got some retreat going on here in the Kara Sea. You see that? Okay, now this goes from Tuesday to Thursday. Climate Reanalyzer did not have Wednesday updated when I was on it Wednesday. It skipped to Thursday. So here from Tuesday to Thursday, there, and Friday, see, we've got a retreat going on here in the North Kara Sea. And then Saturday, and then today, here it's coming back a little bit. So this is, it changes a lot from day to day. Now we'll go through the Navy sea ice models, U.S. Navy. This is from today. This is sea ice thickness in the Arctic. The light lavender is about 0.5 meter thick. The dark purple is about 1 meter thick. The dark blue is about 1.25 meters thick. And the dark aqua is about 1.5 meters thick. The bright aqua, like we're seeing above Greenland and here at the archipelago, is about 2 meters thick, and that's about as thick as we're seeing right now. So, looking at it today, and I've named these quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4 just for clarification. We can see ice all the way up to the coastline in quadrant 1, although we've got little white areas around this Laptev Sea coastline where I don't know if these ice drift has pulled it out or it just got warm and melted. But this is, this is light lavender, so it's not very thick here. Here at CAMS. Now right down here at this bottom end, oh, here's CAMS. This is the Severn Ice. So this island coast right down here is where we're seeing the methane billowing on CAMS for so long. And this is not an area that's being studied as far as we know. I'm deducing, and some of my other listeners have deduced, that this is probably in the military protected zone, since Novae Zemlya has been and is still used for nuclear weapons experiments or testing, and this whole area. And so I'm thinking that, if this had not been off limits, someone would have been out there with the flask and reporting on it, and no one is. They go to the Laptev Sea and some other areas, but the big area where they go is here, the Laptev Sea. So it's certainly thin enough that an icebreaker could go through this, and I would think get a flask of the air, but they're not doing that. So anyway, here we have just above Greenland, we're seeing more aqua come in, a little bit of yellow and a little hint of red here on the coastline. And then let's see the purple colors coming in these tributaries of the archipelago. And here's the Beaufort Sea. It's just continuing to thicken up slightly. And here's what was left of the largest area of the thickest sea ice for this year at the end of the melt season. And it's thickening. And see, now we're seeing aqua spreading out and connecting to above Greenland. So this is thickening up. Now here we are. This is the 30-day animation. The data goes back 3 weeks and the forecast period goes out a week from now. Now if you look up here at the Siberia coastline, see the white, it's definitely either melting or pulling away from the coastline there. So we have an area from the Taimyr Peninsula all the way around, it looks like, where it's not freezing, or we don't have ice around the coastline. Where you see the white, there's no ice where there's white. Or it's just a little skim, not enough to talk about. And so we're seeing an inch out here past Franz Josef Land, and it's inching out now to Svalbard. And the sea surface temperatures in the Kara Sea and the Barents Sea and the North Atlantic is just too warm for it to really refreeze. Same here in the Baffin Bay. It's quite warm, but we're seeing a little bit of regrowth down. So we can see it going from the dark blue into the dark aqua as it's thickening, as winter sets in. And it's dark. It's all this area. All of this is in the dark now. So we're during the winter, even though it's dark, we can still track the sea ice with our models. We have this model of the sea. Well, we can measure different things about the sea ice. I mainly track the sea ice thickness here, but we can also see the extent here. And so this model we can track during the winter. We can also look on NASA Worldview and turn on sea ice layers on NASA Worldview. And also on Climate Reanalyzer they show the sea ice. So with three models we can be tracking thickness, we can be tracking how these masses are kind of anchoring in to the islands, or if they're sliding down. Last year, during the winter time, we watched what was left of the thickest sea ice, which was right around like a little half moon up here above Canada. We watched it gradually slide down. The whole thing slid down into the Beaufort Sea. And these little aqua nubs that's all that's left of that. And that was multi-year ice. So that's what we've got today. Here's the Beaufort Sea ice thickness. Now Alaska's down here at the bottom. Here's Canada on the right, and here we can see the little purple, the light purple or lavender, quite thin, but it's coming up to the coastline there. And see the aqua, we're seeing some green here. So the green is about 3 meters thick. And we're seeing a little hint of yellow or almost aqua green, so about 3.5 meters thick, right along in here and here. So this is the tail of the thicker sea ice. So let's look at this. Here's the 30-day animation. So the forecast goes out to a week from now. And so the ice drift pulls it away and brings it down towards the Beaufort Sea. Sometimes this gyre, it'll go in a clockwise direction, then we'll see counterclockwise motion where it pulls the ice out away from the coastline, and then it slams it back into the coastline. So this ice is always in motion, and just because it's frozen doesn't mean it's not moving. It's, the water is moving, there are currents underneath, and so the ice is in movement all the time. So right now we're watching this ice sliding down even. See how it pulls away and comes dislodged or becomes dislodged, and then it slides a little further south. And that's the dance that it does that we'll be watching. Now we're going to hop down to the Antarctic. This is sea ice thickness for today. And see all the white here around the coastline. And this is in the Ross Sea. This is the Ross Ice Shelf here. This is where it's melted. Also on this western edge, there's a lot of open water along here. Now, this is where the Pine Island Glacier is. The Thwaites Glacier is right up here, and the tongue is coming apart. And then here's the Western Peninsula. Now right along here on the Larson B ice shelf is where we're seeing methane coming up. Also over here by the Brunt ice shelf we're seeing methane. So we've got some thin areas here in the Weddell Sea along the coastline, and then quite thin around this east coastline. Here is where the Anomaly ice sheet is. In this area down here on this southeast edge, this has been in high melt, and the Totten Glacier is down here, and the tongue is really breaking up down there. So we'll be looking at all of that on NASA Worldview. Here's the 30-day animation. Now it's really thinning out fast, and typically most of the ice melts during their summertime. Now this is different than the North Pole. In the North Pole, the water is in the center and the land mass is on the outside. Here we have the land mass in the center and the water around the land mass. Also here we're dealing with seawater, which is salty, and a lot of the Arctic water is more fresh water, so it's less saline. So it's different, completely different conditions, different kinds of ice, different dynamics. So we can see the extent. See, watch it shrinking in here. It's in big melt. And it will be in bigger melt soon. Soon as the sun gets directly overhead. Look at this area melting down here. And this is from National Snow and Ice Data Center. This is as of yesterday. This is the sea ice concentration in the Arctic. We can see this correlates with our other models that we just saw. And this kind of golden line is the mean, median, or average. So it's way below that. Here's the Arctic sea ice extent. Here's their chart. This is as of yesterday. The blue line is this year. The dotted line is 2012. And so we're still above 2012, but we're below the average line. And if we zoom in, we can see it slipping down just a tiny bit here. So the curve now, it looks like it's heading down. I think we're going to intersect with 2012 and probably go below it. That's what happened last year. We were below 2012 for a lot of the winter. Oops. And here's the Antarctic Sea Ice Concentration for today. And see the median line. This is, see how it's inside that line. We can see how much it's melted because it was outside this line up here in the northern part. And here's the sea ice extent for the Antarctic for today, or yesterday. This blue line is this year. This kind of greenish line is last year. So we're well below that. And the average, we're well below the average as well. And it started melting early. See. It reached its maximum around the end of August and then really started heading down. That's all of those models. Now we'll move on to NASA Worldview and see what we can see. Okay, so here's La Palma today. We can see again, here's the ash plume rising up to the southwest. Now we'll go to the Arctic. I'll refresh to get all of our data. So the black circle is where it's dark now. So all the water to speak of now is in the dark. A lot of the land is in the dark. Half of Greenland. The Canadian archipelago is in the dark. The northern edge of Alaska is now in the dark. Russia is now, see, parts of that are in the dark. All of Novaya Zemlya is in the dark. The little tippy edge of Norway is in the dark. Now we'll turn on the sea ice concentration layer. So where you see these colors, that's either where it's refreezing or where it's not very concentrated because it's too warm or there's a hole or something like that. So here we are today. I will turn on the blue marble layer and we'll be able to see it better. Here we are. So we'll go back. Here we were last Sunday in our show. So we'll just click through and see what's happened. And so here we are. So you saw rather where it's coming back. Here it is, coming back in the Bering Strait, here along Alaska. This is still, there are a lot of holes here still in the Beaufort Sea. Here's where it's coming back in the Baffin Bay. And here along Greenland. And here around Franz Josef Land, it's coming out. Here's Novaya Zemlya. Here's some little dots of ice on the Russia coastline. The Gulf of Ob is refreezing. This is the Yamal Peninsula. And here in the Kara Sea, see where it's coming up. And now it's come all the way out, it looks like, to Novaya Zemlya. And then here in the Laptev Sea, we still have some holes where it's trying to refreeze. And this is the East Siberia Sea. And this is Siberia up here. And so on. So what we want to see is solid white. That means good concentration. So we do see it up here. Now this is brand new ice because all of this area was frozen. So it's pretty thin. So it's not like pieces of ice that were thick that were connected by the leads, and the leads thawed and the pieces were just floating independently like ice cubes. This is all refrozen, pretty concentrated, but it's quite thin. Now we'll turn on the nighttime layer and see if we can see anything. I'll get my bearings here. There's definitely an art to reading this nighttime layer, and sometimes you just can't see anything. So here's just above Greenland, we're seeing, see the dark, that's open water, and here's the ice edge on the right side. There's ice, there's ice. This is the ice edge here. That's the eastern edge. And see here, it's going to get too bright to see anything. Now, get my bearings. So, these little islands here, this is Franz Josef Land. Okay, so, see, there's still a lot of open water between the ice. Let's see. You can see, like, that's a big ice piece there. Here, this is Severnaya Zemlya. So right here is Komsomolets. And see little lights. Here's lights. Those are on the land. Here's the Taimyr Peninsula. Here's this open water around the coastline. See that? Open water. Open. And here's the Laptev Sea. Okay. So this is quite thin and still quite a bit of open water there. Here's the New Siberian Islands. See all that? That's open water. See the dark. Here's the coastline. Same thing here and here. See all the lights? Now when you see lights in the ice, those are ships. So they've got ships out there in the ice. It's not very thick. Like I said, their icebreakers could just get right through a lot of this ice. Here's the little wispy ice. See here in the Bering Strait. Here's some more ice. Here's Alaska. There's Barrow right there. See the bright light. And here's the ice edge. See that? Okay, down here, this is Canada. And see, we've got a lot of open water here. See the ice pieces? See, a lot of these leads are still open. Here's the coastline. This, okay, this, where am I? This is Greenland here. This is Ellesmere Island. Look at this little light. That's bright. That's on land. It's right on the coast of Ellesmere Island. This here is the nearest strait. Look at all this open water still. See, it's refreezing, but there's still a lot of open water. Here is the Baffin Bay. This is open right in here, next to Greenland, and then here's where the ice is refreezing, the wispy. And that's about, I think that's about all we can see right now. Well, you can see the pieces there. There's that. So I'll turn that layer off. Now we'll hop down to the Antarctic. So here's the Western Peninsula. Down, this is the Ross Ice Shelf. Here's the Ross Sea. I'm going to start down here at this Thwaites Glacier. This is kind of freaking me out. We've been watching this whole area just south of the Thwaites Glacier, and this area just east of it too, just like disintegrate before our eyes. Here's the glacier. Now last year, see, the tongue used to come all the way out down here, but this broke off. See, all the way up to the line there. So this is really unbelievable melting. So I'll show you. We'll go back earlier. Now look, I showed you last week how that broke off. Here it was on the 23rd, right? So this is, here we go, watch this. Look at that. In one day, it goes from this to the 24th. Now watch. This moves out. So this was last week in my report. And then here it was Monday. Look at this, how all that is just moved out, all in pieces. It's all broken up too. Then it was cloudy and wait. Okay, so watch this area and up here. Here we can see it's breaking apart there. See? Here on the 4th it's all broken up. Here's the 5th, and see a big hole has broken out, and it's already moved out. You can't even see the pieces. They're down here somewhere. See? Now watch. And here we are today. It's shocking. It's breaking up over here too. Let's see what it looked like last year. See? Here it was last year. This same time last year. Let's go to here's 2018. So it was pretty broken up then. Anyway, there's that. And then this area here opened up. Then here, this area right around Ross Island, it's really melting fast. Here's Ross Island, here's Mount Erebus, the volcano. This is the shadow of the mountain there. See, all this has melted. See, open water there. Here's the land. Now this is Ross Ice Shelf. All of this is the ice shelf. Where you see the line, that's where the land starts. And it's mountainous around it. Lots of open water here. Look at this, coming around. Here's Pine Island Glacier. That's in a cloud today. Right here is Thwaites Glacier. That's in a cloud. All of this is open water. Watch. Here's yesterday. See the open water there. Let's go back. You know, when you have clouds all the time, it's hard to see. Now, here it was on the 3rd, and this is the tongue of the Thwaites Glacier, and you can see it, it's all broken up here. See? Right all the way down. And coming all around. Okay. Here's the Weddell Sea. This is the Weddell Ice Sheet. Now, I showed you last week where this iceberg had broken off, this A76, and it had moved up. Let's see where if we can see it today. This looks like it right here. Maybe not. Oh, it's up here. Sorry. I'd forgotten how far it had moved. We saw it, here it is, last week. Right, it had rotated out and it's now traveling along this coastline. See, here it was. So let's see where it is now. Still right there, I think. Can't tell. Okay. Here's the Larson Ice Sheets. Here's the Larson B. This is where we see methane coming up all the time. See? And then here's the tippy point. And then coming around, here's the Brunt Ice Sheet. Look at all this open water. This has got to be a lot warmer than some of the other areas for it to be so open like this. And this is another area we're seeing methane come up as well. See? These areas. Lots of open water. Some of these areas that didn't freeze right along the coastline this year for whatever reason. Here's the Amory Ice Sheet. This is another big one. There's a lot of open water there. Watch. It's just very thin, very wispy ice there. Here's open water. There we go. Look. Here it is on the 5th. Let's see. That's going fast. Then here, this is South Georgia Island, out kind of hanging out by itself, and then over to the east we have the South Sandwich Islands. These little ripples all end up at a different island. And right to the east of this curve of the South Sandwich Islands is where we've been seeing lots of earthquakes. And it's still rocking down there for the last, I don't know, 2 months. Not stopping. So there's that. Now, Here's the earthquakes, and see, here's South Sandwich Islands, and a 5.1 down there today. So I thought what I'd do is just show all the earthquakes this week. Let's do 7 days, 4.5 magnitude. So here are the big ones for the last week, although USGS is not reporting on La Palma. They've not reported one earthquake there. You have to go to Volcano Discovery or EMSC. Now let's turn on all magnitudes. Look at that. 1,908 this week. See? So it's a wonder we're still here when you see all of this. There were some big ones off the coast of Sumatra. Right here. See the cluster there. 13 in this picture. 6.0 was the biggest there, near Cinnabon. There was a 6.0 here in the ocean, near Gorontalo, Indonesia. Look at all this activity around New Zealand. There was one south of New Zealand of 5.5 and one in between the two islands of 5.2. And so on. Just lots and lots of activity. Japan. See, all around. Juan de Fuca Plate had movement. We saw here in the Gulf of California, in Baja, a series of 4s down here. Also, up here at Petrolia, there were 12. There was a whole cluster this week. A 4.4 was the largest that came in on November the 2nd. Then another 4.1 at Covelo, and so on. So, you know, it's just a miracle that we're still here. Now, I will continue reading out of the Bible. I like to bring... Oh, I forgot. I didn't go over Climate Reanalyzer. I wanted to show especially 2-meter temperature anomaly. Look at the red up here in Russia today and in Canada. Look at that. So the Arctic is up 2.8 C higher than normal. One day this week it was up, 3.8 C higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 1.2 C. So it's heating up there. Then precipitation and clouds. We're still seeing rain from Norway all the way over to Russia. It's been raining up here kind of off and on all week. So this is why we're seeing such high methane, I think, up there. Here's the jet pieces. It's not a stream anymore. See, it's all broken up. This is causing climate chaos. And here's sea surface temperature anomaly. This is from Friday. See, we even have reds up here in the Barents Sea. Browns still up here in the Barents and Kara Sea and around Svalbard. Still quite warm in the Hudson Bay and so on. The North Atlantic is up 1 C higher than normal, and that includes what we're seeing up here in the Arctic. Okay, now we'll move on. So I like to bring things back into focus, back to a spiritual viewpoint, because I do believe we're in the end times, and I do believe in Jesus, and He's my Lord and Savior, and that this world is Satan's world, and He came as the Prince of Peace, and we need to emulate Him, especially in these final few days and weeks and months. And this chapter out of Matthew is the story of His crucifixion. Matthew chapter 27. When the morning was come, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put Him to death. And when they had bound Him, they led Him away and delivered Him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, which had betrayed Him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself, and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, What is that to us? See thou to that. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple, and departed, and went and hanged himself. And the chief priests took the silver pieces, and said, It is not lawful for to put them into the treasury, because it is the price of blood. And they took counsel, and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Wherefore that field was called the field of blood unto this day. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was valued, whom they of the children of Israel did value, and gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord appointed me. And Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Art thou the King of the Jews? And Jesus said unto him, Thou sayest. And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then said Pilate unto him, Hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee? And he answered him to never a word, insomuch that the governor marveled greatly. Now at that feast the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would. And they had a notable prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release unto you, Barabbas, or Jesus, which is called Christ? For he knew that for envy they had delivered him. When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas. Pilate saith unto them, What shall I do then with Jesus which is called Christ? They all say unto him, Let him be crucified. And the governor said, Why? What evil hath he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person, see ye to it. Then answered all the people, and said, His blood be on us, and on our children. Then released he Barabbas unto them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall, and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers, and they stripped him and put on him a scarlet robe. And when they had platted a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And they spit upon him, and took the reed, and smote him on the head. And after that they had mocked him, they took the robe off from him, and put his own raiment on him, and led him away to crucify him. And as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross, and when they were come unto a place called Golgotha, that is to say, a place of a skull, they gave him vinegar to drink mingled with gall, and when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink. And they crucified him, and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots. And sitting down they watched him there, and set up over his head his accusation written, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then were two thieves crucified with him, one on the right hand and another on the left. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple, and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. Likewise also the chief priests, mocking him, with the scribes and elders, said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now, if he will have him, for he said, I am the Son of God. The thieves also, which were crucified with him, cast the same in his teeth. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there, when they heard that, said, This man calleth for Elias. And straightway one of them ran and took a sponge, and filled it with vinegar, and put it on a reed, and gave him to drink. The rest said, Let us see whether Elias will come to save him. Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain, from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. Now when the centurion and they that were with him, watching Jesus, saw the earthquake, and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, Truly this was the Son of God. And many women were there, beholding afar off, which followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering unto him, among which was Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's children. When the even was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea, named Joseph, who also himself was Jesus' disciple. He went to Pilate and begged the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be delivered. And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out of the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the door of the sepulchre, and departed. And there was Mary Magdalene, and the other Mary, sitting over against the sepulchre. Now the next day, that followed the day of the preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that deceiver said, while he was yet alive, After 3 days I will rise again. Command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away, and say unto the people, He is risen from the dead. So the last error shall be worse than the first. Pilate said unto them, Ye have a watch, go your way, make it as sure as ye can. So they went and made the sepulchre sure, sealing the stone, and setting a watch. Matthew chapter 27. Jesus overcame death. He resurrected and ascended. And He's coming back. He's coming back to bring us home and to fight the evil. He's the only one. He and God. They're the only ones that can fight the darkness, because the darkness is Satan. But with Him through us, we can fight and stand up and take our stand. Take our stand for righteousness and for Jesus. So I'm praying for all of you. And until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and I love you all. I will talk to you soon. Good night.